Hey guys, it's producer Ross here, and welcome back to another edition of this Self-Isolation My Ipswich Town Football Club. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Jon Watson. Thank you very much for joining me, Jon. What are you doing currently in this self-isolation?
Well, I'm critically still working. I'm a head teacher of a primary school, so I'm in school most days at the moment, still providing care for frontline NHS workers, children and that kind of thing. Only a few children every day, but yeah, I'm still at work and then coming home and doing lots of emails and spending a bit more time with the family than I'm used to. So strange times though, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for being part of this and have a feature.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
And I want to bring this up straight away. Some people will be thinking, you're a Town fan? The accent, where are you from? That's what they'll be asking you.
Well, it's funny because I'm from Sunderland, which is obviously a fair old hike from Ipswich. I worked it out that I got on Google Maps and it's about 278 miles from my original home to Portman Road. I now live in Doncaster, haven't been in London for a while and also in Dubai for a while. But yeah, I'm from Sunderland. But when I'm back at home in Sunderland, people actually say where am I from because my accent's not that strong, which may come as a surprise to some people. Because when I'm in an Ipswich crowd and I'm shouting, "How are you, man? Get stuck in!" or "Come on, lads!" Everybody turns and looks at me and thinks, "Well, yeah, you're not an Ipswich Town boy, but you know, it's coming up to 35 years of supporting them. I think 35 years in May. Yeah, which is quite scary. I suddenly realise I'm getting old." Strange one, because lots of people say, or lots of people ask, do you just start glory hunting when Ipswich were doing good? And I was like, no, I actually kind of jinxed us. I joined us right at the end of the golden era after Robson. So Bobby Ferguson was manager. It was 1985. And the kind of worlds just collided, to be honest. It's funny because my dad's not from Sunderland, so I had no affinity necessarily to Sunderland Football Club, whereas in Sunderland you brought up your granddad, your grandparents, maybe your mum, your auntie. Everybody goes to Roker Park as it was then, now the Stadium of Light, generation after generation, and it's part of the culture. But my mum wasn't from Sunderland and my dad's not from Sunderland. He's from Hull. He's a Hull season ticket holder. Okay. So I got a couple of pictures of me in my Ipswich shirt with Rory and Amber, their mascots and that kind of thing. But because he's not from Sunderland, I didn't go to Sunderland as often as some kids might have, but I love football. Terry Butcher was playing for England at the time, and I was a big lad, wanted to be a centre-half, was never good enough, but would have loved to have been a central defender. Butcher, favourite colour was blue. Happened to see the Milk Cup semi-final against Norwich. I'm sure it was 85, when we unfortunately got beaten by Norwich. Yeah. And then my hometown club, Sunderland, played Norwich in the final. And I watched that because the whole of Sunderland was watching that. And Norwich beat Sunderland. Clive Walker missed the penalty, if I remember correctly. And I remember really hating Norwich because they had beaten Sunderland as well. Then we did a project at school. And my teacher made us write a letter to a football league club, the then first division clubs. And I got drawn out the hat to write to Ipswich Town. Didn't really know anything about Ipswich. But then I wrote a letter in class. We all sent them off. And I was one of the first ones to get a letter back. And it was, they sent me a free programme, a poster and a cap, and wrote me a lovely letter. And I went home to my dad and said, I support Ipswich. And he said, you bloody don't. And I said, well, that was the clinching moment when my dad said I could. I was like, yes, I can. Yes, I will. So, yeah, it ended up being like 550, 560, whatever it is, round trip when we used to come down to Port Road and back from Sunderland. So, yeah, I was 10 and I did a project at school. But the weird thing is my dad's been doing a bit of work in the last few years since he retired on his family tree. And we found out that all my mum's family are from Suffolk and we never knew. Okay. So maybe it was in the blood. Yeah, somehow, somewhere in the histories of the Watson clan. My first ever game was at St James's Park. Kevin Wilson scored after 10 minutes. It was I've got the date written down here. It was 4th of April, 87.
Wow.
So, no, sorry, 80. Yeah, it must have been 86. No, March 86. Sorry, Newcastle 86. So we ended up going down that season. So I said I didn't bring us very good luck, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So Kevin Wilson scored, and then I looked at the team sheet the other night to see who was playing for Newcastle, and some of the goal scorers, Beardsley scored, Gascoigne scored, and Big Billy Whitehurst scored. So we lost 3-1. If I remember correctly, Trevor Putney got sent off as well. So I saw us score and the elation of seeing the first goal away at a big club like Newcastle, and then that kind of feeling of disappointment, which kind of, that sums up being a Town supporter in many ways. Yeah, so 86, and then my first home game was 87, and that was at home to Derby County. So for my birthday, I asked my dad if we could go down. So we went down in beginning of April, 4th of April it was, and got the train down. And remember changing at Peterborough, and it was the same day as the Grand National, I think. And we got down. I was so excited. I had my full kit on, you know, the way you do. And in fact, that is my first home kit there. I've dug it
brilliant. Out. Love that.
That's good kit, that. Yeah, it was good old days. And we got beaten 2-0. Mark Brennan missed the penalty, and I watched that back on YouTube, and my God, he didn't half miss it. It's one of the worst penalties you've ever seen. And he was a good young player that I really liked at the time. And yeah, we got beaten 2-0. And I remember we were walking to the Wimpy Bar in Ipswich to get some food after the match. And we were walking through the subway, not far from the ground. And the police led all the Derby fans in a big line. And apparently my dad said I just took his hand and stood kind of a bit scared of all these loud, drunken Derby fans. So I think it took me 13 games to see a win. And most of them were away. A few draws in there, but yeah, it was all in the kind of 86, 87 was when it really started for me. Favourite Town manager has to be George Burley. Not for who he is as a person necessarily, but for what he represents in my time of supporting the club. And I talked about that kind of pattern of play, that club identity. He was bringing in through some youngsters. He bought well, you know, like you said on the pod the other day, you were all talking about his signings he made, you know, picking up David Johnson. I was like, from Bury, really? Is he going to? And he did the business, picking up Magilton on loan and then making him, you know, giving him the freedom to play his game. Jamie Clapham, you know, all these people, giving people like Richard Wright and Kieran Dyer first team football. I just love that era. So it would have to be Burley for me. I like Joe Royle, and I've got to say I've always tried to get behind every manager. I've sung, you know, about Mick McCarthy for the right reasons, him and TC, and then I would sing about Paulie Lambert's of Blue. Not so much recently, but I just don't agree in booing our team or booing our manager or giving them stick. I'll support them where I possibly can. My silence is my protest, I suppose. But Burley always was doing the right thing, and yeah, George Burley. John Lyall, never really warmed to. John Duncan, Paul Jewell. I've got to say, I was not a Roy Keane fan in any way, shape, or form. I really wanted Paul Hurst to be a success. I thought that was a real changing point. And I saw the first game at Rotherham. Another nice little ground, actually, nice atmosphere. And John Nolan played some really nice football. And Chalobah looked like he had a touch of class when he was playing. And how we didn't get a point from that, let alone get beaten in that. But I thought, oh, this season's going to be great. Oh, sorry, it was the first away game. I think we played Blackburn at home first. Yeah. It was my first game of the season. And I thought, you know, there's 1 point and we should have had 6. We're going to be fine. And then it just never turned. We never got that run. So I was really disappointed for Hurst. But then the more you read about him and Doig, you think, well, there was a lot that probably wasn't right. Behind the scenes, and his man management maybe wasn't good, but you know, I think Burley seemed to be respected by his squad, and he had the togetherness, so that's why I like him the best, I suppose. Well, Butcher was the first person who kind of was synonymous with the club for me, and obviously he went to Rangers at the end of that first season. I was I think that was the end of '86, might be a year out there, and there was a kind of big hole because like he was the main guy, but Burley was just at the end of his career. You had people like Mitch Davray and Eric Gates was still there, but there's lots of people through the years. But Ian Cranston was my first hero. Like he was the young centre half who came through, and I remember in that Derby game, it said I bought the green and I had it stuck up on my wall for ages, and it said "Classy Cranston." Something, and sad Brennan missed his first half penalty, and I'll always remember that. And Cranston was a big, strong guy and no nonsense kind of defender, and I liked Ian Cranston a lot. Johnny Walk, when he came back, I was lucky enough to see him in one of his spells. Obviously, he wasn't as good as he was early on in his career, but he was still a legend. So I'd say Butcher and Cranston, and then I kind of went through and thought I've got a real soft spot for Romeo Zondervan, Pablo Caniago, Big Herman Hreiderson, Jim Magilton, Marcus Stewart, like that golden period really. Tirico, Marcus Bent, not so much, but Darren Bent certainly. Sixto Peralta, I heard you talking about on the pod the other day. Yeah. I've forgotten how much I loved seeing him play. I think it was Andy who mentioned him. What a lovely player to watch. But more recent times, Jason DeVos. He was another big strong
lovely defenders.
Absolutely, somebody who can defend. But ultimately, definitely Matt Holland, my absolute Town legend. Because I guess people can talk about Crawford and Mick Mills, and as much as I respect the history, I didn't actually personally see that, so it's hard to relate in the same way. People who I know, or people who talk about what a good player like the Dutch lads were, and Mariner, but for me, Matt Holland was my modern kind of captain, modern hero, and I think a great role model to any youngster who wants to be a pro. So yeah, Matty Holland is my number one. Favourite game has to be Wembley, the playoff win. I mean, it was just a glorious day. I remember walking up Wembley Way. I was wearing my blue shirt with Matty Holland's number on my back. It was a really sunny day, and the Barnsley red was really glistening against the Ipswich blue. It was, it was like that kind of bright colours that you expect, a complete contrast from each other. And I'd never been to Wembley to watch I've been to see gigs there, but never seen a football match there, a club match. I'd seen England play. But that day was just phenomenal. And I dared to dream that we could do it. And it had everything, that game. Then ultimately you had the result that we all dreamed of.
Yeah.
And it was the best game I've ever been at. And I just remember standing on my chair at the end, singing over and over again, waving my scarf around for what seemed like ages. And then it's funny what sticks in your mind about certain games. When I got back I didn't stay over that night. We got back to King's Cross to get the train back up to Sunderland, and my dad was with me. Even though he doesn't support Town, he's been to a hell of a lot of grounds with me over the years. And we got back to King's Cross, and I was the only person wearing blue. Everybody else was wearing red, and I walked into the middle of King's Cross just thinking, oh God, this is going to be messy. And credit to every single Barnsley fan came up to me, shook hands and said, good luck next year, you deserve it, you're a better team, or patted me on the back and said, oh, excellent game today. And the Barnsley fans, I've got a soft spot for them, because the way they were, I was just a nobody in a blue shirt, but nobody gave me any aggro. Nobody gave me any grief. And it was just real, proper, good banter. And they were full of well wishes for us. And so definitely the best day out as a Town fan by a mile. I kind of shortlisted 3. One more recent time. One that I remember getting so excited about when I was there. And then... I guess the one that really mattered most. So for me, the best goal, I think it was 2002. Matty Holland scored a cracker long range shot at Everton at Goodison Park. And I was there for that. And it was a great goal. He was wearing the white kit. I remember that the Everton fans were really loud. And then we were winning against Everton and we won the game 2-1, if I remember correctly. That was a cracking goal. More recently, I was at Chef Wed at Hillsborough when Tom Lawrence got the ball just on again, we're in white. Maybe I should wear a white kit all the time. We were on this side of the pitch, and Lawrence got the ball on the far side, just near the halfway line, and went on a mazy run. And it wasn't necessarily an amazing goal. It was just the fact he took it from his own side of the pitch, his own half almost, and scored a really important goal. And at that point, we weren't having that much to cheer, and seeing Lawrence score, that was really nice. And then it's either Royce's goal at the playoff final, which meant everything. But the one that sticks in my mind is Marcus Stewart at Anfield. It was the first time I've been to Anfield. It was such a great atmosphere. And we were just singing 1-0 to the Tractor Boys after Marcus Stewart scored. It was a lovely, well-taken goal. They were the better team, really. They played, as you would expect, Liverpool at home. But we managed to get a hit-and-run job on them. And that was, I think, Stewart at Anfield would go down just to know that we had won at a place like Anfield. I never thought I would experience that, so that was fantastic. That was probably my favourite. Stadium of Light is always a good one for me, because it's where lots of my friends and where I was born in Sunderland. Roker Park was a bit of a shed, really, but Stadium of Light, something special. St James's Park, because it's the first one I saw Town at. I've always liked going to the Forest Ground. We've generally played well when I've seen us play Notts Forest. So that's always been a good place to go as well. But to be honest, some of the newer grounds I've been to, Derby fans have always been quite up for the banter. I quite like going to Derby. I don't know really why. Maybe I've just been there a few times and saw that classic 4-4.
That was amazing. I
remember we were 1-0 up after a few minutes, 2-0 up after 4 minutes or something, and then they scored one. And by 9 minutes in, I think it was 3-1 up. And this guy sat down in front of me and said, "Have I missed much?" I said, "Yeah, we're winning 3-1." He said, "Yeah." I was going, "No, we really are winning 3-1." And he wasn't having any of that. But I've got to say I don't like going to Leeds. I work with quite a few people who are Leeds fans. But Leeds is such a, I don't know, it's got a niggle in the air. It's got a real nastiness to it. Last year was the first time I ever went to Villa Park, and I didn't realise just how impressive Villa Park was going to be.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I actually thought we played well that day as well. But yeah, Villa Park was the surprise package for me recently. But this year's been interesting. Lincoln, Fleetwood, and places like that. So I'm ticking them off the list, I suppose. Get to see more grounds than I've ever been to. But if I had to name one, it'd probably be Stadium Light, just for personal reasons. I dug out a few. That's my favourite.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
French style Adidas. I think that was my second or third kit I got. But that's probably my favourite design. And that makes me think of Romeo Zondervan and early Mick Stockwell and that kind of thing. That's probably my favourite. That's the coloured one, I think. Yeah. If I remember correctly, I like that one. But probably the French style one.
Definitely. Yeah.
I've got to say, I was going to wear this seat. Well, last. And I just hate the logo.
No one likes it.
Magic Vegas. No. I mean, this year's at least it's a bit more muted, but I would love just that one again. I would love that one. Definitely. That's my favourite. Makes me think of good old days.
Well, Adidas make good kits for us, don't they? Really, I think we should just belong with Adidas. Really, I think we had who did we have last?
We had
Punch as well.
And then we had Mitre for a while as well.
Mitre, yeah. I don't really like Mitre. No offence to them, but I feel like they've never really, during that period when we had, Jewel and early Mick, like them kits, I never was really a fan of them, but some great kits there.
Yeah, well, it was nice having to dig through, and I realised I've always bought the home kit. I've only got two away kits. I got the burgundy and dark blue one with the collar on, and then I've got my favourite away one was the old
ice. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That must be very rare. That not many people must have that or own that.
Yeah, I mean, I just pretty much bought one every couple of years, every two,
Yeah.
3 years maybe. But yeah, I've got a big handful of them here.
Love it, love it,
I was
love
digging
it.
out in the loft the other night, having a look what I got. I could name quite a few. Um, Relegation last year, definitely up there. The 9-0 defeat by Man United wasn't particularly amazing, especially when my mum says she supports Man United. That was not necessary. But on a personal level, the one that really hurt, I was mascot for Ipswich at Roker Park against Sunderland. About most of my classmates or the lads I knocked around with would have been in the ground in the Sunderland end, and I came running out with the Ipswich lads. So yeah, March 1989. So I was 13, bit old for a mascot maybe, but at that point there was never away mascots. It was only one
Okay.
home mascot or two home mascots, and yeah, I was mascot at Roker Park. Romeo Zondervan was captain. We had um, maybe Craig Forrest in goal or Ron Fearon. I can't remember which one it was.
Right of fear, bloody hell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, name's coming out here. And John
yeah.
McPhail was captain for Sunderland. I had a photograph and I can't find it anywhere of me and Romeo Zondervan and John McPhail. And yeah, we lost 4-0. Marco Gabbiadini scored a hat trick. I can't remember who got the fourth one. But then Gabbiadini got sent off because he punched Tony Humes in the face. It must have been Fearon and Humes got in Gabbiadini's face after he scored a goal, and then he just punched Humes and got sent off after. So you would have thought your hat trick would have done the talking, but he planted somebody in the face. But I remember just sitting wearing my kit, having walked around the edge of the pitch, thinking I've got to go to school on Monday, and I'm going to get some serious stick here, So on a personal level, that was like, when I said I was not a particularly lucky mascot, literally, I was not a lucky mascot.
Of course, you mentioned, the playoff final. Would you say that is your best moment as a Town fan?
Yeah, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. Just for atmosphere, what it meant to us all, and I guess that was my favourite period of Town, not just because of the success, just because it felt we had everybody talks now about a style of play or a pattern of play. I knew what the lineup was going to be if everybody was fit. You probably knew who was going to be in. Yeah, there was a couple of changes here or there. When Jermaine Wright came in, was he going to be in? Or when McGreal later came in, or maybe Clapham and Heriderson and Venus. There might be a little bit of switching every now and then. But you knew what the team was going to be, and everybody did the job. Magilton had the ball, Dyer had the legs and the energy and the enthusiasm. Holland worked his socks off. Scowcroft and Johnson were banging them in, and then Marcus Stewart joins and adds a different dynamic. It was special times, and that whole period of George Burley growing, we got so close to the playoffs. I think it was like 6th and 3rd and 4th or whatever it was. Then before 6th and 5th and whatever it was, then we got the playoff that year, and we beat Barnsley 4-2, and that just felt like we finally got what we deserved. And that was the passion came through that build of, it felt like the atmosphere was there at Portman Road when I came down. It felt like on the away grounds that we went to, it really mattered, and everybody felt really united. So that Wembley was the kind of the pinnacle of it, to be honest. So when I was out, I lived in Dubai for 7 years, so between 2004 and 2011. And I used to go to a game in August before I went back out there. And then if I came home at Christmas, I would catch up with a game. But I could watch any Premier League game out there, but getting Championship football was hard. So I used to have the Ipswich player on and listen to the BBC radio commentary and that kind of thing. And we had a little group of lads who we connected with. I think it was probably via the TWTD site. It was Ipswich in Dubai, Ipswich till I die. And I think there was 6 of us Town fans, maybe 7 of us. And occasionally, if we were on Sky, we'd get together in a Irish bar and watch the game. And it was the playoffs I'm trying to think when it would have been against West Ham in the playoff semis when we got beaten. We all met up and we were standing. I had my Matt Holland signed shirt on. We were all there in Ipswich shirts at 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, Dubai time, having a pint. And in walks Matt Holland.
Okay.
With his father-in-law, and I'm a bit embarrassed because I've got his signed shirt on that back, and I'm like, oh no, there's my hero, but also, oh God, do we talk to him? And he just gave us a wave, and then with that, he just went and sat by himself, well, him and his father-in-law, and we just went over and said hello, but then we gave him some space, and then bless him, he bought us a round of drinks. He sent a round of drinks over for us, and at half time. I went and just bought him a pint as well and just put it on his table and said, that's for you, Matt, and walked away. And at half time, he came over to have a good chat with us all. And he wasn't interested in football, really, talking to us about football. He was more interested about Dubai. He was playing a bit of golf and that kind of thing. Yeah. And he was such a gent, and he bought us another round of drinks, and he just nipped off before the end of the match. So, but a really top fella. So when you meet somebody you look up to, it's always nice that he turns out to be the person that you kind of hope he would be as well.